we're going to take a moment to share that presentation. The guys haven't even seen it yet, any of the film from the trip. So we're going to start our evening out with really one of the highlights of my coaching career. This trip had a tremendous impact on our present athletes, and just a really ministry trip through soccer, and we're excited about sharing that. Paul has a few comments before we start our tape.
And just a couple things real quick. This trip was one of those things we almost attempted a year prior and just felt that it wasn't the right year. And as we got our heads together and prayed about it, it was just right. And we went to Okinawa, Japan. And one of the things, I haven't seen this film either myself, but one of the neat things, there's going to be roads that were paved for future ministry trips to Okinawa as a result of what the guys did there this last year. We're already planning a follow-up trip. But one of the things you probably won't see on the highlight trip, there was impact all over the place made, but Coach Orr and I were given a gift one night. While the guys were doing some clinic work, Coach and I had the privilege of attending a little Japanese massage. And we were side by side, and man and white team were both giving us their towel massage, shiatsu. And when this 1 hour gift to us by the missionary there was done, Coach pulled out his pictures, started showing his family, and the ladies were really excited about those pictures. And we were done. We got back into the van with the missionary, and he said, "Guys, do you enjoy your massage?" "Yeah, that was awesome, man. We got a relationship going with them." We showed them our pictures, and Pastor Bo Russell said, "Did you know the lady you showed those pictures to is blind?" Anyway, we had some great experiences, and all right, let's run the video.
Meaningful to say.
You never know where it's going.
We're glad to be here both as the Missionary Athletes International Seahorses, as well as Biola University. We work together, and we have the same purpose. We love the game of soccer, and we love our Lord Jesus Christ.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
And I come home from work and I have a rocking chair on the front porch, and I just rock and watch the world go by, but I can't get the rocker going. It's hard. And then when a pretty girl walks by, my pacemaker opens the garage door. It's embarrassing. It's really bad. Think that one through for a moment. Mark Vincent shared that with me. I didn't know he had a pacemaker. Okay. Seriously though, it was a privilege. We didn't know a thing about soccer, nothing. Most of us were football players from high school. Bob McCullum, who was from the East, came and he was our coach and athletic director, and then John Cox, who was a pastor, Canadian gentleman, was really the first coach. It was an exciting experience. I played goalie. I was the biggest and the dumbest, and it was really a unique privilege. But when we played UCLA, there at UCLA, which was, I thought, a great privilege, we walked in and they said, "You know, we don't have enough practice balls. Could you loan us some?" And this is UCLA, this huge school, and we did that. And then they scored 11 goals against me. It was exciting, very exciting. But that was on 40 shots, so I did block some. Okay. No, the real reason I'm here, I don't remember. Why am I up there? Oh, okay. Mark just asked me to share very quickly the criteria that's used for selecting people to the Hall of Fame. And I'm really glad to be here. I come from Oregon. It's neat. I've been here for, about the last 6 years to the banquets, and it's really a privilege to come. I also had the privilege of being in the Hall of Fame. And I wondered, too, how I was selected. But I remember at the time, Mark had written me a letter to ask me if I would be open to be considered. And boy, what a neat feeling that was. And then later to call me back and say that it happened and that they were going to induct me in 1994. And so I thank the Lord for that privilege. But I also want to say congratulations to Mark's son. I understand he put the media guide together, and then Mark Vincent was the man that put it through the printing press. And I think they ought to get a hand. That's a beautiful piece of work. let me just run down some of the things that they go over when they're considering guys for this honor, and it is an honor. First, they of course, it goes without saying, but judge it on performance on the field. Objectively, honors and records that are set during that time. And those of you that play defense don't feel left out on that, because stats aren't usually kept on what you do. But you also are thought of and graded by those that sit on that committee. And by the way, that committee is open. If you would like to help serve on it, they meet between 3 and 5 times a year here on campus. And you're welcome to be part of that. And you could talk to Mark, or you could talk to Coach Norman, or to Matt Orr. Mark, who else is on that committee? Please.
Dave Brown and
Raise your hand, would you, so we can see it. Dave and
Coach Gizzy.
with a name like, okay, that's great, okay. But seriously, keep that in mind. Secondly, subjectively, and I didn't ever know what these things meant in school, objectively and subjectively, but this is the contributions that they make to the team as a whole, not just on the field, but the way that they, I would like to use the word minister to other teammates and become involved within their lives. It also, the skill level, and again, performance. So it all comes back basically to performance. But not just on the field. The other attributes they look for are leadership on the team. They also look for a degree. You're here not to play soccer, but you're here to go to school. And soccer is just part of your growing experience, and a great part of it, but a completed degree. And then there's life after soccer. And they try to find out from others about what kind of ministry that possibly you're involved in, what kind of work that you're involved in, what kind of support that you've given to Biola. And of course, the thing that revolves around all of this is your walk with Jesus Christ and the testimony that you bear. Fourthly, your continuing interest in Biola. And what we do, or what the committee does, is ask for nominations. And they have worked hard to go back over this 40-year period and to make sure that nobody is left out. They work very hard to do that. And but that takes input from everybody that's been involved in the soccer program, both faculty, alumni, other students, teammates, etc. And I know I get a letter once a year when they're starting the process of names that they would like me to put down and put them up for nomination for that. And again, I might say that this 40 years, they work all of those years. Mark said that for the next go-around, the letter will go out to all soccer players for names. And so what I want to impress upon you, this is just not a small committee action. This involves a lot of people. And in my mind, it makes the honor even greater, because people are writing in and say, hey, I played soccer with this dude and he is worthy of this honor. Or I'm in the same church with him and this guy never holds still. He has a heart for God and things are happening. And I know his family and it's for real. And I know what he does at work and people are coming to know Jesus Christ. And it all comes from that Biola experience and how God captured their heart at that time. So again, just, and I'm done, but I said they meet 3 to 5 times per year. And if you're in the area, you're invited to attend and to be part of that committee. Thank you.
Before we start tonight, I want to ask Steve Andrew to stand up, introduce your wife and family so we know who I'm talking about. If you can stand up.
Cool. My wife, yeah, this is my wife, Julie, and my oldest daughter. I met her at Biola back in 19.
Yeah.
My daughter Heather, my oldest son Brian, Jennifer, and
It's kind of nice to see Stephen lost for words, because I've never seen him there before. Stephen, a little while when I'm done here, talking about you, we'll have you come up and receive your award and a few statements about you. But real quickly tonight, I want to know, Steve, what's that, I see under your stats here, 1973, 74, 75, skip, and then 77. Ah, skipped a year there, huh? We'll ask some questions about that later. I want to know what 76 was all about. Guys, there are a lot of honors listed there as I take a look at all Far West, NEIA All-American. There's some incredible remarks there about his contribution to the team. But there's some other things that have happened in addition to that. I've just recently had the privilege of, after 20 years, of meeting up with Steve. And you don't want to see two grown men meeting for breakfast, wiping tears away. But I'm telling you, it's phenomenal to see what God has done in the past 20 years in Steve's life. And Tim Conrad was one of his coaches. Tim wrote, and I want to read just a statement out of Tim's email here to us. Steve was gifted with a larger than average body. You couldn't tell that right now, but and a delicate touch on the ball. Steve Underwood could dominate any American collegiate soccer game in the late 70s. That's Tim Conrad's statement about Steve's ability. But Steve had a very good friend from Argentina, my college roommate, and I wanted to just share quickly a word. I want to read Mark Schrock's letter to you. Email was down on CompuServe all over the nation, I guess, this afternoon, and Mark, over the phone, dictated this to my wife, so bear with me while I read real quickly Mark's comments. Steve and I were clicked because of our missionary background growing up in a Spanish-speaking country. Having grown up in Spanish-speaking countries gave us a different perspective and a passion for the game more than our teammates. Steve made life interesting on our team, always full of tricks and pranks. In Mexico, on the very first Biola missions soccer trip, in a small hotel, he filled up a trash can with water and dumped it on some unknown Mexican man walking on the sidewalk below. Do you remember this, Steve? No. I can picture this. I can just picture this. I thought we'd fight the Alamo again, and that's only one of many, many pranks I could relate. But Steve, as a frontline man, was like a bull. When he was dribbling, nobody could get the ball from him. He had a real hard shot. I hated as a defensive man to practice dead balls being in the wall because his hard shot would leave "Mi Casa" printed all over us. Those others who knew Steve back then knew that he was struggling serving two masters. Now, and through Paul, I have learned he's made a radical change in his lifestyle. I am so glad he is living the life and serving our master. And I want to read for you a couple things that I've shared, Steve and I have shared over the last year or two. Besides the fact, with his exceptional grace for a big man, however, when he decided to forego the grace and use his strength, I would hope as a goalkeeper that he hit the upper V so I wouldn't have to handle the shot. And I also mentioned I wish we had goalie gloves back then. But I don't remember anybody with a harder shot, even today, than Steve. But now as a father of four, he has turned his passion for the game into coaching and teaching at a local Christian high school, as well as giving his time to the local Youth Soccer Association. It was the commissioner of La Habra AYSO that said to me last year to sign up, I wish every one of my coaches were like Steve. He says, Steve has been done an incredible job with the kids. We'd be set if we had all our coaches like Steve. I say, what a testimony for our Lord and for Biola, Steve. Thank you for representing us that way. Steve married his college sweetheart, but more recently has been involved with ministry. He did Seahorse soccer camps this summer. And it was fun to watch him with kids. He was a camp counselor there. One of the things, Steve, I have to mention this real quickly. As I recall, you were also a very close personal advisor to me in regards to my relationships in college. And I really appreciated that. I finally decided to ignore your advice and marry my college sweetheart, Vicki. But I'm just so grateful that the Lord has brought us together after all these years and what He's doing in your life. And I wanted to end up with something from Dr. Norman here. Dr. Norman wrote, and he was pleased when he heard that Steve was coming to Biola originally. Though he did not have a chance to coach you, he enjoyed watching you play the game with great enthusiasm, high energy, and power. As a gifted athlete, together with your daring and creative spirit, you are a major contributor to the success of the teams during that 4-year period. Your records and performance on the field deserve the recognition as a member of the Hall of Fame. More significant than his past performance on the soccer field is the great joy and appreciation he has for Steve as he hears of his walk with the Lord and service in the community, to the church, and with his family. This faithfulness to eternal values is what counts for our Lord's record book, Congratulations, Steve. That's from Dr. Norman. Would you come on up and receive your award?
That breakfast actually, I think it was the onions. Had nothing to do with 20 years. Yeah. Well, anyway, to the Hall of Fame committee, where we're elected, thank you very much. It's such an honor to be part of this organization, Biola, and the Hall of Fame. Indeed, those first years at Biola were difficult for me. Spiritual battles, culture change. I didn't want to leave Mexico. My parents thought otherwise, and I'm looking at Mr. Hafer here. Didn't like those CS services. Yeah, we had to do those. Sometimes I wasn't always faithful to that, but anyway, God has His way of bringing us around. We go through detours of life, and I'm so honored now that God has somehow, after all these years, begun to use soccer in my life again. And I just want to thank all of you. Dr. Cook, my missions teacher, you learned so much from me as being president. That's right. Anyway, but the coach at the time, the rest of the coach, but it's just so nice to be back in Biola. It's been years and years, and it's just like it's home. So thanks for everything. Again.
Peter, if you wouldn't mind standing up, I'd appreciate that. And please introduce your wife to us.
My wife, Caroline.
If you look in your booklet tonight, you'll see that Peter and Carolyn have come the farthest to join us tonight. They came from Guatemala, and we'll go into that in just a minute. That's an honor for us, actually. As adults, sometimes I don't think we take advantage of opportunities that we have to thank people that have impacted our lives. And tonight, I have 3 guys that are being inducted that have truly impacted my life and changed me. And Peter, you're the person that I get to induct tonight, so I'm grateful for you and for what you showed me. Gary, here's Peter, I see him right back there. You know, you were the senior when I arrived, and the impact. You didn't know I was watching every step that you made and the things you said, the way you played out there and your consistency. But thank you for just that drive that you had. And Coach McLeish, thank you. Thank you for bringing me here. Thank you for your endeavors with me and your soft hand many times and your hard hand many times when I needed it. So I'm humbly grateful for that. Peter, because of Peter and because of Coach McLeish, that's probably the reason that I came to Biola. My first day I came down on a Wednesday. I remember that vividly, and battled the traffic from Glendale, and Coach and I had a little dinner in the sub, sitting in the building at that time, and had a chance to watch George Bell unfold himself in a show. I think he was about 10 feet tall or something like that. It sure seemed like it. It's like welcome to college days. That was a bit intimidating. And then we ventured out onto the soccer field, and I saw Peter Bell and Danny Fosmeyer touching the ball out there. Well, I was coming from a small school, and I had these guys do things with the ball that, frankly, I had never seen done. Well, Peter and Danny come over and do their pleasantries with Coach and introduce themselves to me. And Peter asks me, I don't know if he remembers this, but he asks me, "Are you fast?" Oh, I didn't know how to answer it at that time. Whatever. And he said, "Well, that's good because, we really like to distribute the ball into the corners." And so for the next 4 years, I was chasing balls down into the corners. And I appreciate that, Peter. The heads up. Peter had many awards, but it's not really the awards that impressed me about Peter. What impressed me about Peter was his leadership. And leadership takes on different forms for different athletes, for different individuals. And there's a few words that come to my mind as it relates to you. The first is consistency. You're just a bedrock out there. Whether it be on the soccer game day or whether it was on practice day. And your level of intensity that you played out there was amazing. You were the first one at practice and you were the last to leave. You were taking those shots afterwards. And by the way, Steve, you had a powerful shot. I think this is a good, not a predecessor, but somebody to follow you. And Peter had a tremendous shot that we all tried to emulate. You were always encouraging. It wasn't a boisterous encouragement. It was a quiet pat on the back. Come on, Dave, keep trying. Keep working at it. Keep running for those balls in the corner. Always with a good attitude. I mean, I can't remember a time where he didn't have a good attitude. And that was always an encouragement to me. And, you know, at 18, 19, 20 years old, you figure that you know everything there is to know about soccer, but something unique about Peter was the fact that he was coachable. He listened to what Coach McLeish said, and he applied it, and he encouraged all of us who thought we knew it all to apply it as well. And sometimes it worked when we did apply it. And I think something more than all of that was he was the go-to guy. And I'm talking about things that happened on the pitch. He was the go-to guy. When the chips were down, he was the guy that we looked to as our team leader. When we needed that goal at the end of the game, when we needed the encouragement from the get-go, that's the guy that we went to. Now, I want to address you guys in the back there in the gray shirts. What you're doing today, your attitudes that you are portraying today, the things that you say, the way that you're going out onto the practice field, things you say, the comments you make, your other teammates will remember those things. They will remember just the attitudes. And if I can encourage you guys, take an example that I had from Peter, and be that coachable guy, be that guy that 10 years from now, everybody will remember. Maybe you don't have the best skill out there, but you tried your darndest, and you used every talent the Lord gave you to its utmost. And that's what your teammates are going to remember 15 years from now, as we're remembering Peter. See, Peter had the skills, but he also had the heart behind it. And I was just so grateful to hear that and to see that and be a part of that, Peter. And I want you to know that. You know, after school, Peter took his training and he headed up a camp up north. And then he did something I think even more important. He and his wife are now down in Guatemala, being missionaries, being a part of an orphanage. I haven't even addressed his walk with the Lord, but circling everything that Peter did was his relationship. And that was very, very obvious and evident. Just the way he talked, just the way he spoke to all of us. And I appreciate that about you, Peter. This award and this honor is not something that we proudly give to you as a school. It's something that we humbly give to you, and we're grateful to have you a part of the program that we have here. And it's really neat that you built in so much into this program. And we also give this to you as an encouragement to continue to walk that straight and narrow path as you're going through the years. It's not easy, I'm sure, being a missionary down in Guatemala where you don't have all the niceties that we have up here. But it's a neat time that we have to thank you. So if you would like to come up here, I'd like to give this to you.
Well, I too, like Steve, would like to just thank the committee and fellow athletes and teammates that voted for me. It was a big surprise for me to receive this award. You know, Dave and Coach asked me to spend a few minutes talking about what Biola has meant to me. And I start with my story.
when my wife and I drove into campus today, there's a little tree down here below where the cafeteria is. In 1975, that's where I received the Lord. I came here as a 14-year-old, interested in playing soccer, not knowing this was a Bible college, not knowing anything. I'm a first-generation Christian in my family. And there was a young man here, part of the team, named Bob Burris. I don't know if you remember him, but he was my camp counselor that week. And after a day of playing soccer, we'd hang out in his room, and he had an opportunity to share with us a little bit about the Lord. And one day after lunch, we had these little Bible studies that we did after each of our sessions in the morning. And I sat under that tree, and then the Lord touched me. And, I started crying and embarrassed in front of all my buddies there. But the Lord did something real in my heart. And so I'm, eternally grateful for the opportunity the Lord used Biola in that way, the soccer program here, to do that in my life. The soccer program here, when I came as a young man, I heard a message down in Baja just a few days ago by a carpenter, and it made me think about what Biola has meant to me. He uses the passage in the Word about, it's very important what you build on the foundation in your life. And soccer is an interesting sport because if you've never played sports and you really love the sport that you're playing, it's not a God to you, but it's something that's very real and very energizing in your life. A lot of people play one sport and they love it, and they maintain their enthusiasm in that sport. And when I think about soccer, for me, the Lord has used soccer to provide a foundation for me. When I came to Biola, I met a group of people. My teammates are out here. I see Mike, I see Quinion, and JR, and Gary, and Barry, and all these guys. I haven't seen these guys for 15 years, and I walk up to them today, and it's like I was out there playing soccer yesterday. These guys don't practice here tomorrow. And that's the foundation that we have through our experience in college soccer, or college sports, is that you develop friendships that provide a foundation for you. I've done a lot of other things in my life, but under the surface, I have a group of people that invested themselves in me, and I in them, and have something special to be able to do that. I don't know if you can do that in your science class or something. You don't have the opportunity to develop that intimacy that you do with a bunch of guys, playing 3 hours of soccer a day, doing weight training and running and all that kind of stuff that we do. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity that Biola Soccer has given me. It has provided for me a resource in my life to think back and think of the solid foundation that I do have in my life because of the soccer program here and because of what the Lord did in my life through this college. So I'm very grateful to Biola for the opportunity to be here and to receive this award. Thank you very much.
It's my privilege at this time to induct Eric Schultz. Eric came to Biola in 1989 out of the Sacramento area. He has 2 items of importance here on his resume. Eric, in 1990, was an NAIA All-American, but as important as that is, he also was the Sam Sutherland Award winner in 1990, which is the senior athlete, or the athlete that best exemplifies Christian spirit as a representative of Biola Athletics. So it's a privilege for me at this time to induct Eric. If you would stand, Eric, at this time. And he's here with his wife, Deborah, who was a nursing major, is an ICU nurse at Whittier Presbyterian down the street here. They have their 2 daughters here, McKenna and Emma, with him tonight. Also this evening, coming all the way from the Turlock or Tracy area, is one of his good friends and teammates, Darren Johnson. Let's come on, Darren and Stacy are here. Why don't you stand up, Darren? Troy Block here. He was here earlier at the games. It's another one of his teammates that was here tonight. And this evening, Matt Kern is here. Matt, would you stand up? I've asked a good friend of mine, Scott Nander, played during Eric's years, and then we coached together, so we were together as a group for about 5 to 7 years. And I've asked Scott Nander to come. Scott is the athletic director in the Ventura area with Grace Brethren Churches.
Thanks, Coach. It's a real honor to represent Biola Soccer. I'm the only non-Hall of Famer up here this evening. And that isn't lost on me because it's a privilege to talk about Eric. In the book, you see everything that Eric's accomplished as a player. I still remember Eric making diagonal runs off the wing. Great speed and pace. And I still remember Eric, our senior year at APU. Amir stole the ball midfield, sent a through ball in, and Eric comes off the wing and beats Christian Johnson, the goalkeeper from APU, and we win the game 2-1 with about 5 minutes left. And that's something that, watching the game from the back at the goalkeeper position, I'll never forget from our days playing together. Eric was probably the best all-around player in the 3 years he played with us. He played sweeper for us, he played outside back, he played center mid, he played outside mid, he played striker. He played everywhere for us because he had that type of talent and the knowledge of the game. As Coach said, we were able to coach together as 3 coaches for 4 years, and I learned a lot from Eric. 2 years he was the JV coach at La Mirada High School, I was the varsity coach. Sometimes I was trying to figure out why I was the varsity coach and Eric was the JV coach, because he had a great knowledge of the game. Eric and I, in fact, we actually stood together watching a La Cañada La Mirada playoff game. Ben Orr, who's actually watching my daughter right now, who was an All-American as well, was a freshman then on our team, and Kurt Abel, who was graduated a couple years ago from the program, was also on that team. It was pouring rain, and we weren't supposed to win, and Eric had made a couple of adjustments, and we ended up winning on penalties. But it was great to be able to stand on the sidelines with Eric. Eric went on to John Glenn High School over here in Norwalk, and that was a big frustration for me because I knew that we were rivals, only being about 2 miles apart, and that they were going to be well coached now because they hadn't been in the past, and that was going to be a big challenge. Second game that year, we're over playing at La Mirada High School. We got the game under the lights. The school district actually flipped the bill so we could play under the lights, and it was probably one of the best high school games all season. It was 0-0 tie, and maybe the only tie that I can walk away and say, well, I was kind of satisfied, because I hate to see a tie on the scoreboard. But after the game, Eric and I shook hands and gave each other a hug, and then our players started talking, shaking hands, and Eric had only been there a year. I had people like Mike Sutherland, who actually got me in over at La Mirada, who had built a program before me, but Eric had to come in and start with these guys. These guys respected the game and respected their opponents based on his mentorship. And I'll never forget that, because you have 2 public high schools who really in the past didn't like each other at all. And these guys are talking, they'd almost become friends through combat on the field. And that had a lot to say, has a lot to say about Eric's desire to make young people better. I mean, the guys in the back, you know Eric. And it's a privilege to play for him that you shouldn't pass up and take too lightly, because he's a great coach and a great guy. I also remember going with Eric to Austria in 1990, went to Austria and Italy with seahorses. We played, I remember we ended up actually at one point with our hands on the hood of an Austrian police car. We got to play Division II ballpark. Spittal, we played their U23 team and walked out with the first seahorse win at that stadium in the club's history. But I also saw Eric share with players that we played against, because he had an instant rapport with them because he was a brilliant player. And with kids on the sidelines in German, because he'd taken German in high school, the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that was such a wonderful experience to be able to hang out with Eric, because I could be there standing next to him, but he could speak to them. And it was just wonderful to be a part of that with Eric. lastly, want to share a story that I don't even know if I've ever told Eric this. I met one of his players, the sweeper back, Jesus, at In-N-Out one night. And Jesus was working the cash register. Jesus was a great guy. He had to help support the family a little bit by working and played for Eric. And we just started talking at the cash register there. And he just said how different the program was since Eric had been the coach, and how lucky he was, and the team was, to have Eric there as the coach. And Eric, we're also fortunate to have you be part of Biola Soccer, to have played here for 3 years and coached here. This is your 9th year of coaching. And to have played with you, coached with you, be coached by you, or just even to know you is a privilege that we will always remember. And Eric, congratulations. You're very well deserving of this honor. And as Dave said, this is a humble time because you've given so much to Biola Soccer. This is just something small that we can recognize you with. Thank you, Eric. Come on up.
Jake and I were talking in the back. He said, tell the guys, since they know Darren Wren, we didn't realize he actually posed for this trophy. Now that I looked at it, it's not bad. That's pretty true. Those of you who don't know Darren Wren, he's about 5'1", and looks pretty much just like. I threw down a few little points as I was sitting there. This coach said Ron Hafer was going to pull us off if we went too long, so I had to keep my train of thought going. And as I looked around the room, I saw Dave McLeish up here and Sudsy in the back, and I thought, man, there's a wise coach, and there's a not so wise coach with his back to the gray shirts over there. And McLeish sitting up front where you can see what's going on. But it was a privilege, I think, to be inducted tonight, and I do want to thank the committee for inducting me in. Being inducted on the same night that Dave's coming in, McLeish, from a player and a coaching standpoint, I've known Dave as I've played against your teams, but at the same point, I've also built a rapport with him, and I've been able to work clinics with him over at SEC, which is now Vanguard. Two of the clinics I remember the most are with Franz Hoyt from Ajax, and then Anson Dorrance from North Carolina and the Women's National Team. Knowing Dave, I had the privilege to get over there and do those, and I worked with Miguel, and that's a great friendship there. And I was sad not to see Miguel on the sideline today. And as Scott was talking about a goal that I happened to slot against CJ at Azusa Pacific, I didn't have the same luck against Miguel at SEC my senior year, and I think the two of us collided, and which was not good because those of you guys that saw the keeper this year, Miguel was probably bigger than him, wouldn't you say? And we collided, and Miguel saved it, and I'm sure we shared unpleasantries with each other and went on our way. But yet, through the Seahorses, and we became great friends, and that friendship is still there. And so, through soccer and through Christ, there's so much more than just winning a game. It might not seem that way at first, especially after a loss, but there it is. And as I read down this list that I had to rip in half for my daughter to write on, I remember getting this in the mail, and I called Matt Kern, and I said, hey Matt, did you get this flyer? And he's like, oh yeah. And I said, yeah, did you see my name was on there? And he said, yeah. And I said, I guess I got inducted. And he goes, oh man, I thought that was a ballot. I checked your name and put no next to it and mailed it back. So it's nice to know that my other friend DJ, my roommate for 3 years, actually made the trip down and was much more gracious than Matt was. But Matt and I lived near each other out in Corona, and actually attend the same church, and there's a great friendship there. But as I looked at this list of players since '88 of the inductees, I've actually played soccer with or coached with 13 of them. And as I was talking to Dave earlier today, we've talked about how one generation of players is linked to the next generation of players, and And for me and for Jake Seagraves to be nominated within the last 2 years, we've actually linked the incoming group of players with the previous generations. And as I look at these players, they're incredibly just quality players, and yet at the same point, they're quality individuals, and they've all gone on to do just amazing things in life. And one of the things as I look down here, Randy Freeman, JR, Tony Schroeder, who's not here, Fosmeyer, Dave Brown. I played with those guys when I was 18, 19 coming in here, and they were much older than me playing on the Seahorses. And for them to kind of take me in and show me different things and just different aspects of the game, I really enjoyed learning from them. And just for them, they were 6, 7 years older than me. They could have been like, I don't want anything to do with you. But yet Tony would pick me up for games because I didn't have a car when I was first here at Biola. And I remember going to a Vegas trip with the Seahorses. We played in a tournament, and JR will probably deny everything. But, there's the Seahorse camps when you work as a counselor and you're teaching kids about soccer and also about Christ. But then there was the Seahorse team, and it was a whole different kind of camp. And I just remember learning to play blackjack with JR and Tony Schroeder. You can deny it; it's all right. Yeah. But it's things like that, and I say that in good humor. But for them to spend time with me and just teach me the finer points of the game and just things about life was great, and I really appreciate that. And I wish all of them could be here, but they're not. So if you could pass that on to them, I would greatly appreciate that. I talked about Dave and Sudsy, working clinics with them and coaching against them, and I'm glad that Sudsy's on the men's side now, and we should have had you guys, and it was a great game, but many more seasons I'm sure ahead, and same with McLeish, but I don't know. Anyway, our games with McLeish and our games, I don't think they've ever gone past 1 goal. And it's usually within the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes of the game. And it is a great game. And if you saw some of the highlight film, you can see how physical, is that a good word? Intense. Okay, intense is that. But it's a great rivalry. And I think because we know each other, we can go and have that rivalry and yet still walk off the field and love each other as best as you can. And, mumble under your breath a little bit and then just go on. But the last thing I just wanted to talk about is working with Coach and the Biola program as a player and then as a coach. I've been at the university for 12 years. And one of the things that's kept me here is Coach Orr. And as a player coming in, he'll tell you I was kind of hot-headed and had a temper, and he was right. But yet he stuck with me and worked with me and nurtured me along to where I could use the gifts that God gave me to impact other people. And I've taken those gifts that God's given me and with Coach's discipleship and work soccer clinics with kids. And I'm a teacher now working with kids, and I've traveled with Seahorses and Vanguards, and I was telling Dave, with this last Japan trip, that's 7 international tours I've been able to go on, and not only play soccer, but share the gospel of God to people that I don't even know, clear across the world. And as Scott was saying, in Germany, being able to speak German, my grandparents spoke it, I learned it in high school, and from my grandparents as well. But being able to share the gospel of Christ with them, and letting them know that there is more to life than soccer and winning, and that even in a loss, God is still there, and in life, your life isn't a complete failure with that. But I love what Coach has done with the program, and I think Biola soccer program in itself, quality players and quality people have come out of it. And I don't know the previous coaches. I mean, I know you, but I haven't played under you. But I see the people that came out from your program. And I think coaches just continue to build from that. And when you talk about a graduation rate, there's only been a few kids that I know of that haven't graduated from Biola, but yet have gone on and graduated from other schools. The commitment that he puts into the players and his coaches to disciple us. And I was just telling Paul the other day, after Coach's talk, I didn't know what to expect, and I came in, and yet Coach ministered as he discussed with the guys and gave focal points to the guys, it hit me again. And it was just another example of how I get paid in so many other ways than a monetary value by working here with Coach and the program. And as much as Coach impacts me, so do the guys on the team. And you don't realize that at times, but sitting in the vans, driving to Fresno and back, driving to Point Loma and back, the discussions that we have and your viewpoints on things and my viewpoints, and as we throw these things back and forth, there's certain things that you say I didn't think about that. You know, I didn't look at it that way. It's a challenge, and as the verse says, iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. I think that's what we have in this program, and you see that coming out through the past players that will spend time with the future players, and when we're recruiting people, Brad Davies, you know, is a person that was a graduate of the Biola soccer program as well, that was influential in Brad coming here. And you hear these stories. The kid that Scott was talking about, Jesus, I actually had an opportunity to train him as a 13-year-old when he was playing for Cerritos with Benny Orr and Steve Schack. So Jesus ended up at John Glenn High School, walked on it, or didn't even play soccer in college. Steve Schack walked on at UCLA and is now playing in the MLS for the Metro Stars, I believe it is, and Benny Orr is pursuing a baseball dream. Those are three kids that I had a chance to work with, and it's just tremendous how there's all these links from previous or even future Biola soccer players. And so for the Biola guys that are here now, you'll just continue to be blessed by this program. And for those of you that are leaving, hopefully the 4 years that you've been here, the lessons we've learned through competition and through the soccer experience that you'll be able to take, and it will enrich your life as you go on and become married and get started in your career. I think Coach really looks at the whole person as opposed to just an athlete. And it is a great honor for me to stand up here and receive this award. And I just want to thank you once again for nominating me and inducting me in the Hall of Fame. Thank you.
I am extremely excited about being here tonight and looking around and seeing a lot of familiar faces. And I know the guys in the soccer team don't know me. I had a chance to watch you guys play against Vanguard University. You guys are an incredible group of players. I'm really impressed. To see Paul Gizzi and Matt Orr and Ron Hafer and to look around and see some of these faces. It's just to be here introducing Gary Wiebe, to see my good friend and teammate Peter Bell, my coach Dave McLeish. Steve Onrud over here probably doesn't know me, but we know him very well in the Drake home. My brother Alan played with Steve, and everything that I did in high school, I would always say, well, Alan, I scored a 25-yard goal today, and he'd say, well, Onrud can score from 40. I grew up with that for years. So he was a legend. And then when I came in my first year, I think he was coaching JV soccer, so I had a chance to get to know Steve Onrud. But again, I'm extremely honored to be here. Before I start, Gary, if you would please stand and introduce your family.
I have my mother and father here, and they live in Carlsbad, just down the way, and they're retired missionaries from SIM. And my sister Raina and her husband Bill are here, and their oldest son Eddie, just an aside, he's 15 years old. He's taking courses here at Biola. Sharp young man, working in the music department.
A few quick things about Gary. First and foremost, Gary was a testimony on and off the field. That's the one thing that when I started thinking about Gary, your parents should be very proud of you, because even at that time when he was a sophomore, a freshman, he was an example for the other players on the team. He really, truly was a person who put God first in his life. So that's the first thing that I'll always remember about Gary. The next thing is, Gary was the toughest defender I ever faced. I hated him. I scored a lot of goals in my career, but I literally never scored a goal on Gary Weeby. If he comes up here and says that I did, he's lying. I didn't like to go against him in practice. Jeff Bemble and myself during practice literally would do rock, paper, scissors to see which guy had to go over to that side of the field. We really did that. One of the things I remember, we played a soccer marathon years ago in like 1980 or something. We played for 52 straight hours. And Jeff Bemble and I, again, we were the captains. We flipped the coin, and we flipped the coin. We knew what we were flipping the coin for. It was to see who was going to choose Gary. That's the honest truth. I lost the toss. Jeff chose Gary. My team lost something like 212 to 173. And Cleon and Peter were both, and Suzy were all part of that game. And I kid you not, I mean, the score was 200 and something to 107. And during the marathon, Gary would not let me score a goal. That's how intense he was. I mean, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, Gary, my girlfriend's watching. I want to score a goal. But he's like, no, Barry, I don't think I'm going to let you score today. That's the way he was, but that's the way he was with everybody. He was so intense, so fierce, so incredibly tough to get by. I would just give up sometimes. Another thing I remember about Gary's toughness is we were playing, and I believe it was University of Nevada, Las Vegas, I'm not totally sure, but Gary went up for a head ball, and he and the other boys' heads collided, and Gary cut his head open so severely, he had 3 layers of stitches, and he had 2 internal layers. He did not want to come out of the game. I asked Coach to take me out just because I saw the blood and I wanted to come and sit down. But that was Gary. He was bleeding, it was all over, and you know, Coach, I'm okay. He's unconscious, but that he wanted to play. The other thing, a negative thing I will say about Gary, though, is Gary only, well, to this day, has still never touched the ball with his right leg. God only gave him, that's right, Coach knows. To this day, he's never touched the ball with his right leg. But he didn't have to. He didn't have to. He'd say, Gary, I can stop you with just one leg. I don't even need both. But he could score from way out. He could switch the ball from sideline to sideline with that left leg. He could stop everybody with that left leg. We used to rag on Gary and pick on him all the time, but it didn't matter. But that's the one thing. He never touched the ball with that right leg. Getting back to Jeff Bemble, myself, and Mike Sutherland, and there's a few others, we always wanted to take penalty kicks because we were always competing for goals and whatnot. The last couple of years, Gary took all the penalty kicks, and we went to Coach McLeese, and we tried everything in the book. Coach, please, I promise I'll make them. He said, no, Gary's taking them. I don't think Gary ever missed a penalty kick, and there were several important games. Gary would go up there and act bored, and the ref would blow the whistle, he'd run up, shoot the ball, and score, and run back. That's the way he was. He wasn't a big, look at me, I'm great. He'd just go in, kick the penalty kick, and run back. Another thing, a great memory I have about Gary is I grew up in a hick town where, you know, if a cow went by, that was the highlight of the month. Gary grew up in Bolivia, and he shared similar stories. So we'd go on these road trips. We were kids in a candy store. I mean, Gary we talked on the phone the other night. We would play trivia, we would be singing songs, we'd be going to malls, we'd be checking out the beach, because we didn't have much growing up. And so I know Gary has a fond memory that he has all the road trips that we had together with all these guys that are here also. But again, it all comes around to what I started with. Gary Weeby was a man of God. And that's the one thing I'll always remember. Quick bio, Gary was the most inspirational player in 1980. He was the most valuable player of the team in 1982. He was all district in 1980, 1979, 1980, 81, and 82. He played over 80 games. He scored 28 points, and from the fullback position, that's a lot. Gary now lives in Colorado with his wife Rhonda and 6 boys, none of whom he named Barry. I'm a little disappointed about that. Gary still plays soccer today, and I heard about 10 people say when he came in, he looks better now than when he was playing soccer way back then. So it is my honor and my privilege to introduce to you the newest member of the Biola Soccer Hall of Fame, Mr. Gary Weeby.
Wow, that's a tough act to follow. I am just honored to be inducted, and especially by Barry, because I held him in such high esteem. He was so quick, and I think those stories he was telling must be false, because he seemed to go by anybody when he wanted to. But I just have very fond memories of playing here at Biola. I remember in the early years playing with Tim Conrad and just the camaraderie we had. But I also remember Coach McLeese and the fire and the determination that he had to make us the best players that we could be. And one thing that I really learned from soccer here, I had a desire to play well, and I always had a desire to do well, but I didn't have a desire to really condition and do all the things that it took to be a good player. And that's one thing I appreciated from him, is he had a desire to make us the best players we could be. Barry mentioned the road trips. That is one of my fondest memories of soccer, not the actual games themselves, but actually just the road trips and sharing with one another in the van, driving different places we went and we talked. And I was always very quiet, so I loved to listen to the different guys just go at it at trivia wars. Barry just loved to be trivia king, and he loved to show everybody how much more the local newspaper he read that day than anyone else. So it was a great, it was fun to just listen to him. But just all the guys here. I saw Mr. Jones here, and I remember basically living in his home during many of the years that I was here, and I just remember what a giving man he was, and he and his wife, and just taking us in and taking care of us, and just really showing us God's love, and just that commitment to us. And we had nothing to give back at that time. It was just wonderful. But I met my wife Rhonda here at Biola, and that was one of the great gifts here. And but somebody mentioned Ron Hafer in ministries. I had a couple of years there where I had a problem doing ministry too, and I'd come up and talk to him, and I'd say, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this." He'd put a big smile on his face. "Of course you can." Grin from ear to ear, and I really appreciated that about him, because he just when I didn't want to do the things that were good for me, he was there to say, "Oh yes, you need to do this." And now, just by going through Biola Christian School, wonderful Christian school, and the things that I learned in Bible classes, and the things, the foundation of Scripture that I gathered from here, now my boys are in Christian schools, and that's mainly due to the importance that I found through going through a Christian school and just learning. And at one time, I thought, well, I don't know if I can afford the cost or that kind of thing, but my wife was very, very committed too. And one of the reasons she was very committed was just the education she had here at Biola. I really want to thank my parents. I wouldn't have been here at Biola except for they believed that God would provide for any school that God wanted me to be at. And my mom received an inheritance just very shortly before we were due to come to school. And my sister Rain and I, who you met, we were both able to come, and it was due to their faith. And I think back in college, at that time, I did not have such a real faith of my own. It was kind of an umbrella faith, a faith that I'd seen in my parents' lives, and seen them pray, and God answered. And back then, I was praying that, you know, I some of it was just a belief in the fact that God had answered their prayers. But since then, just over the years, God has worked in my wife's and my life, and we've gone up and down at times, but God has been so good, blessed us with 6 sons, and I'm just, I would love for some of my sons to come here someday. It's been a wonderful privilege to be here.
Another one of Coaches McLeish's good trainings. Be yourself always, and I've been to 4 or 5 of these, and I wore ties for the first 3. And I'm here tonight to honor somebody who has been a truly great man in my life, a coach, a mentor, a friend. I don't have enough time to tell you everything that I need to tell you about him, but as Barry and the other guys have mentioned, as they've come up, what a joy tonight just to see these faces that I played with,
some that I've coached, been coached by, and there's something just knowing. I coach at Cal Baptist University now, and coaches at Vanguard, and I want you to know that there's something that's incredibly special about Biola University. And my wife and I are walking around campus here. There's not a thing like this out there where you have this camaraderie and getting back together, and just the life lessons that are taught here at Biola University are phenomenal. I'm here to tell you about a man who is a phenomenal man and means the world to me. Like I said, he's a coach, a friend, a mentor. I played for Coach McLeish when he came here in 1981 on a team that had incredible amounts of success on the soccer field. And before we talk about just having that success, times were not always easy here during that year. Coach worked incredibly hard, more than the wins could ever tell you, in helping us win the regional playoffs and go to the national championships. Some of the things that I remember about Coach, but I'm going to back up and I'm going to let him introduce his family to you as well. And I want to let you know that his son Josh, where's Josh at? Stand up, Josh. Josh was the ring bearer in my wife and mine's wedding, and we met here at Biola as well. Josh was the ring bearer in our wedding, and now he's just an incredible All-American. So, Dave, I'm going to have you introduce your family, and then I'll tell it.
This is my lovely wife of 31 years, and I bet she's seen more soccer games than anyone else. And that's my son, my second child. My daughter's 6. She couldn't be here tonight, Jessica. You guys that were here when I was coaching would remember her as probably a 7-year-old. She's 26 and works for a public relations firm, and she's doing very well, but she couldn't be here tonight. My son Josh, who's a senior at Vanguard and is playing for me, which is an honor that I love. And I'm not going to mention anything other than that. But then my youngest son is right there, Jacob McLeish. We got an 11-year extension on our parenting contract. We're loving it because the other two are already out of the house, and we'd be bored to death. But with Jacob there, we are just enjoying it. And we got to talk about that man over there, Mr. Jones.
You bet. Well, in fact, I'm going to do more than that. In a couple minutes, I'd like you and Cleon Jr. to both come up here, and you guys deserve to be a part of this as well. And I'm just incredibly honored to be here to talk about Coach McLeish, but I want you guys to join me. I think that would definitely be appropriate. One of the things that I learned from Coach McLeish when he came here to Biola, day in and day out at practices, he would take us aside, and Scripture was definitely a part of what we did before practice. Dave would come out with verses and give to us almost at each and every practice, and I can't tell you how much that spoke to my life. And as a mentor to me, now coaching at a Christian college as well, I've tried to incorporate those things into my life and my coaching. Coach was also, if any of you go outside of the college soccer world, Coach does way more than Coach at Vanguard University. I think Eric mentioned doing clinics with Coach, and Coach puts on clinics with some of the biggest named soccer people in the world. Franz Hout from Ajax, Anson Dorrance from the national team, and North Carolina, you know who they are. And Coach would put these clinics on, and I had the privilege to work at one of those clinics with Coach. And he has some of the biggest names in the world doing soccer clinics, and he would get them to come. And I remember talking to Coach before the clinic, and I was nervous being around these guys, and I would look at Coach and his calmness, and he would say, you know what, I'm going to have a great time today. This is going to be so enjoyable. I don't have to worry about anything. It's all in the Lord's hands. And I'll tell you, I don't know if he even knew all those times, but I listened to everything that Coach said. I've told Coach year in and year out, and we've done lots of things, Coach, if I'm half the coach that you are, my coaching career would be amazing. And just in his daily actions and words and things that he would say, I picked up on all of that. I don't even know if he knows how much did I pick on, but I've always told him, I'm just trying to be like you, Coach. In addition to that, I got my first coaching license, my state coaching license under Coach McLeish as well. And I had a chance to, work hard for him in that and to get my license. And the thing that I noticed as he was dealing with all these coaches who came there to get their license is that the intent to share Christ with these men is evident in everything that he does. A few years ago, I got the opportunity to work state ODP with Coach. And if you don't know the things that this man does off the soccer field, he was the whole
head coach for the far western United States for the Olympic Development Program and a regional coach before that. And he asked me to come and be with him on this trip to Nampa, Idaho, and help coach the state ODP team. And the night that I got there, I flew over with the team, and he was already there working. And one of the things Coach always told me is if you ever get a speaking engagement or if you ever get a chance to do something, even if you're nervous about it, go and do it because it's a great opportunity. And Coach, I've done that. Ever since you told me that, I don't even know if you remember the day, but ever since you told me that, every time I was nervous about speaking or had something to do, like tonight, I'd get up there and do it anyway. And that night when I got to Nampa, Coach pulled me aside, and I'd flown over the team. And he was the state coach. I was not the state coach. I was the assistant coach, just going to hang out and watch Coach again and learn from him and be impressed. And he comes and he puts his arm around me and he says, "Hey, Micah, I'm working with the regional staff now, and he goes, you don't mind being the head coach, do you, this weekend? And by the way, you're going to teach attacking out of the defensive third out of a 3-5-2 tomorrow in front of the regional staff. You don't have a problem with that, do you?" I was like, "Not at all, Coach. I'm scared to death." He's like, "I'll help you out." And I'm all, "Okay, as long as you say so." But it was an amazing experience that I had working with him. And the reason why I bring it up at all is because as I watched Coach deal with those regional coaches and Derek Armstrong and all kinds of the best coaches that you could imagine, they had tons and tons of respect for Dave McLeish. Number one, he's a great soccer coach. But everything he did that week, as well as coach and be respected by those men, his intent was to share the love of Christ with them. And I can't remember the one guy's name, but there was one guy there, just incredibly wild guy who loved to go party. Les Armstrong. This guy was just a maniac, wild party animal. Phallus, mouth, phallus, thought, phallus, everything, And I'm going to try to relay this conversation as best as I can, but Coach and I were talking one night, and this guy would come up to Coach and say, "Man, you're missing out on everything. How can you possibly, be happy? You're missing out on all this great stuff," according to Les. And Coach looked at him and said, "Les, do I look like I'm not happy?" And Les looked at him and said, "Yeah, now that you mention it, you look like you're really happy." And Dave McLeish was able to share Christ with a bunch of guys that not other people could get to. And he could share it in a way that was just incredibly special. And for me, being somebody underneath him again, I saw that consistency from a player, from getting licensed under him. He encouraged me to go get my national license. And then being under him again, I have seen for 20 years this man's consistent love for sharing the gospel and for living it out in his life. He's a great soccer coach, but that isn't the thing that's impressed me the most with Coach. It's his love for the Lord, for his family. I happen to know that when Dave got his A coaching license, that one of my good friends, Johnny Marmelstein, was there with him. And Johnny was a lot younger than Coach, or a few years younger than Coach, and I guess there were several other young men there too that were younger than Coach. And Johnny and I talked about the clinic and how it went. And Johnny looked at me and said, "You know what? Coach McLeish was by far the #1 candidate at the USSF, by far." Yeah. One of the other things that Coach always told me was, no matter when you go to your practice, make sure that you write things down, even if it's last minute. Make sure that you write your practice down. And it's really been good advice for me because I can't remember things, from 1 second to the next. But I want Dave to know that this is such an honor for me to be here in front of him and be able to play a small part in inducting him into the Hall of Fame. And right now I'm coaching a couple college teams, club teams, working another job. My team was getting ready to play Westmont tomorrow, and there was no way I would miss this. And the final call was my wife's. It's her birthday tonight. And I said, "Do you mind if we go?" And she said, "Yeah, go ahead and be there to induct Dave. I know that means the world to you." And Coach, the words that I had to say could never equal what you've given me. Those young men who played under you have all given testimony to that tonight. You've accomplished great things on the soccer field, but the impact that you've had on our lives will last for eternity. And I'm incredibly grateful for everything that you've given to me, and has been mentioned by several others tonight. This is a small token that Biola University can give back to you for the great things that you've done in the lives of many others like myself here. And I would be remiss if I didn't invite the Joneses to come up here and to add to this. So Cleon and Cleon Jr., get up here and help me do this. They want to talk about you. Where's my notes? I met Dave. Actually, I met him through some kids that I coached in youth here in La Mirada back in the 70s that I sent to Cerritos College when he was over there, and they'd come back and tell me what an animal this coach was. That he was a Marine drill sergeant. I think that was Steve Winton who told me that. But my son happened to be playing here, this one, when Dave came here, and I was associated with the program with Tim Conrad. And I offered and opened my house to Dave with my wife, and the team was already almost all of them living there. Peter Bell and Gary Weeby and Barry Drake, and I think that was the year we were back in Minnesota, and I get a call from Cleon saying that camp was getting ready to start for soccer, but the dorms weren't open because the kids lived there. And we come home and we're stepping over about 23 bodies laying all over this little house we live in over here. So, but Dave McLeish has been a dear friend of mine for the last 20-some years. In fact, I would say we are best friends and have been for a great number of years here. Mike talks about a mentor. My walk with Christ at that time was, at the least I'd say, weak. I had accepted the Lord, but I was a policeman in the city of Los Angeles, and our lives are so different than what goes on out here in the real world, and it's kind of hard to walk that life. But Dave mentored me through all the years here of traveling up through Utah and discussing Mormonism a little bit, and being able to listen to him. As Mike said, every day at practice he would come in with a biblical verse and discuss it and relate it. Everything had to be related to soccer, though. We would use that. And then he asked me to assist him, and I hate to say it, we went down to Southern California College. And I coached with him for 14 years down there, and he was a great asset to me as a personal life. And we always argue over who's the boss, and he still is, but the only thing Dave can't do is go anywhere. If he says go to Fresno, we end up in Mexico. So I became the tour manager for all the teams that we coached. But I want to say he impacted more of these kids and their lives and what they do outside of soccer and any university setting than any man that I know. And he impacted my life, and he still does. And these kids have learned so much from him, as so many of them have stated to you tonight. And like I said, he keeps me in my Christian walk, and we are brothers in the Lord, and we will always be brothers in the Lord, whether we're far apart or not. And Dave, I appreciate you for that, and it's an honor for me to be here again with you. And my son now played for him for 2 years, and my other son played for 2 years also.
Well, I can testify to the inability to get anywhere. I have vividly imprinted in my mind a trip to Kalu, which is something. And we were literally changing clothes in the vans. And what else? Trying to stretch in the vans. We got there probably 5 or 10 minutes after the game. We didn't go out to the field. We ran all to the outhouse, formed a line, and in the vans for 2 or 3 hours. I guess just a couple of brief points. One other thing, my favorite drill, which you guys probably remember, build up that aggression and intensity around the goal. Coach had us move the goals, 18 yards apart or 12 yards apart? All 20, 22 guys, one team here, and the ball just got crossed, and you just had to score in the goal. And it was pretty insane, but it was fun. Yeah, it was scary. I guess a couple things about Dave. I know down through the years, one thing that's really kind of impressed me is there's a number of people that have gone on that have played for him, and they coach different places now. I would have to say that most of them have been very successful, but it's funny, I can watch the games and I can see Dave's imprint. And I remember when I get Corona and stuff, I'm watching those guys play, and I'm hearing the things that are said and watching how the team plays, and just definitely had Dave's imprint. And I see that with a lot of people that have coached since. The little bit of coaching I've done, the same thing. I've learned a lot from Dave. But I have to say the main thing I want to say about Dave is you can look back on your life, and there's certain things that are virtues in your life that you have been taught and you've adopted. And one thing that really stands out about Dave was he never demanded that we go out and win, but he really demanded that we do our best. We trained a certain way. We'd have a certain game plan. And Dave, all he would ask is that we would stick to that and give it 100%, do our best. There were games where we lost, but we played awesome. We didn't lose too often when we played like that, but we gave it our all, played our best, and Coach would let us know that we did great. There were other games where we played a really bad team and we played worse. Maybe we came out with a win, but Coach really got on our case, rightly so, for just not giving it our best. And I think, looking back on my life, that's one of the big lessons that kind of stands out in my mind, is that I learned that the way to run your life is to give it your best. Not necessarily win or lose, just give it your best, and whatever the results are, that's what you get. But I'd have to say he's one of the few people I can say has left a particular lesson on in my life that's really stood out. And that's a lesson that he's taught me.
Anyway, Coach, from the bottom of our hearts, from everyone who's had your imprint on our life, we're just thrilled to give you this Lifetime Achievement Award to Dave McLeish.
Few things to say. The first thing I got to say right from the beginning, God is good, and He's been so good to me. And I didn't come here to get an award. I came to make some apologies and some thank yous. First of all, the players. I was only 32 when I started here. I didn't know anything, and so if I did anything right, it was by accident. So I just came to apologize for all those things you had to go through. But just looking across this room, I know I'm going to miss people, but I look at Gary Weavy. What an awesome guy. That guy, he didn't know what stop meant. He didn't know what second best meant. Of course, his left foot was so awesome, he could open a can of corn with that left foot. But he was awesome. He never quit. Barry Drake, what a great player. Coming in here and having a player like Barry Drake on your team, that was fantastic. Great goal scorer. Mike Sudds, I got to tell a story on Mike Sudds. Mike Sudds has got the heart that every coach wants. And that stuff about the Bible verses in the Bible, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I always thought the Bible was a coaching manual. I didn't realize it was written for other people too. I just figured, when Samuel went down to pick David, and God said, man looks at the outside, but God looks at the heart. I thought that was about coaching soccer. And guys like Mike Sudds, a heart of gold that will, in overtime, will run by players to put a ball in, to two teams that already had bought their tickets to go to the Nationals. And Mike says in overtime, says, no, you're not going. I'm sticking the ball in the net, and we're going. You know, and we weren't even supposed to be there. You know, and just guys like that. I know I'm gonna miss JR, just getting cleaned out in the San Diego game, just getting his nose split by a really mean player, and fighting because he doesn't want to come out. He finally get him bandaged up, and he wants to go back in. The guy does it to him again, and he still wants to play. You know, just stuff like that. Peter Bell, the classiest thing that I can remember is that, you know, we had a rough year, and he came back his last senior year and just was the epitome of leadership. He was awesome. He was awesome. And having him back that year was great. These guys back in the corner, I'm going to talk about you guys. You guys made a real impression on me. You guys got beat by us. And I wouldn't have come I want to thank you about that, because I wouldn't have been here if you wanted. Okay, I still have a real ego problem, and it would have been hard to walk in here if we lost. But you guys are awesome, and you show a lot of class. The fact that you made my guys pull together. Now, the makeup of my team is probably not as strong as Christians as you guys. We're working on it. You know, they're works in progress. But what you guys did showed a lot of class, and I was really impressed with that. And I'm looking across the room. I know I'm going to leave people out. Mr. Jones here, Cleon Jones. If Christianity is not what you say, it's what you do, that man is solid gold. His house has been open for years. He is a home away from home for anybody that needed a meal, a place to sleep, and he lives his Christianity. He lives it from the bottom of his heart, and I haven't mentored him. We've mentored each other. You know, we just keep each other in check. There's no upper hand there. I mean, there's lots of times when he had to straighten me out because I get off track. So, Cleon, the most intelligent player that I've ever had, put him in the back and as his mom says, he hasn't spoken for 3 years, and all of a sudden he's yelling to people. You know, his mom says, how'd you get him to do that? I had no idea. He got back there and just took over. I can't leave my sons out there. 2 great soccer players, and I love them. And of course, his girlfriend Erin, she's a doll. Let's see. Steve, I didn't have the privilege to know you, but it sounds like you are another Gary Weedy. It sounds like you did some great things. I have to apologize, Dr. Cook. The only times I think we spoke was on my way out of here. Now, I don't want to sound like sour grapes, but you know, it's amazing when you look back, when you're young, things happen to you, and you think, you know, I just really got dumped on. And I felt that way when I left Biola. In fact, we didn't say Biola for years. We said the B word. So I'm sorry. That's just a joke now, okay? But I want to apologize, Dr. Cook. You know, the Lord is awesome. He took a program. I was here 5 years, and wrestling was cut. And we had Matt Orr here. Matt Orr is an awesome man. And they gave him the soccer job, and they told me I was part-time, and I left. And you know what? When I left, I was upset. But you know, the Lord's economy is great. I mean, look what he's done here with the soccer program. And the Lord says, hey, we got 2 guys here working soccer in the same place. Well, I need one down there and one here. So you're moving, you know. And it's worked out fine. I'm having a great time, and I'm actually a lot closer to home. So the Lord worked it out great. The Lord's economy is awesome. Looking around here, I don't want to miss any. Dave, this guy, yeah, he did spend most of his life going in the corner chasing balls, but you know what? When he got on the end of him, he was awesome. He did a great job. What an athlete, what a great soccer player. I know I'm going to leave people out, but you know, first of all, I just want to say, and I want to say this because I don't want to get too deep into it, but I just want to show you guys that I was here when I was 30, 32 through 37, and actually the Lord has treated me so good that up to about age 46, I used to go to bed at night, and both my parents are alive. I have a beautiful wife who loves me. I've got kids that love me. They're doing well. And I used to go to bed thinking, I'm the luckiest guy that ever lived. And then at 47, I went through a mess in my life where I fell apart physically, like in one week. And the funny thing, the first instance of it was when we were playing the spring game here at Biola. I started running and my arm started hurting. And to cut a story short, I had to go through open heart surgery that went bad. And I ended up 6 trips to the hospital and almost dying 3 times, twice by ambulance to the hospital, lost 50 pounds, lost all my ability to walk. I couldn't even, I couldn't even get out of bed. I spent a year trying to get back physically, and I spent a second year trying to recover mentally. And
And I was sitting one day, when I was back at school teaching, I was having some quiet time before my classes started, and I had a bad attitude. I was horrible. I was no fun to be around. I wasn't enjoying. I lost my personality. I lost my ability to laugh. And you know what happened? About the second year, the Lord said, hey, you know, it's your turn. I've been carrying you for 2 years. Get back on your feet and start walking. And you know what? I went through a mess that I wouldn't wish on anybody. But you know what? What I have to say at the end of it, God is good. God has blessed my life. I'm back. I'm having a ball of, hey, Vanguard University, you guys have played Biola a long time ago. Remember, that was a nothing school. We're in first place right now. I'm sorry, I don't want to rub it in there. I'm having a ball. I've got a great life. I've got a great wife. I've got a great God. And I've got friends in this room that I can't believe. And I want to, just thank you for even thinking about me. And I want to thank Matt Orr, because he did a thing here that I mean, it's been gone a long time, but he did a little final healing on a thing that happened. And you know what's so good about it is the Lord knows. The Lord knows what's best for all of us. We don't know. And you might just hit, I mean, I wouldn't wish what happened to me on anybody. There were times, I mean, I almost passed away, and you might hit those spots. The Lord will get you through it. He'll get you through it, and He'll put you back. And if He doesn't get you through it, you go home anyway. You know? So hang in there. Thank you guys so much for this. And I don't deserve this, but I really appreciate it. Thank you. God bless you guys.
I want to ask you guys, if we were in a church service, it'd be time for the benediction just about. But let's stand up, and I'm going to ask you to help me sing Happy Birthday to Deanna. All right, let's stand up. Do we have the music leader in our midst? Please sing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Deanna. Happy birthday to you. We're about to wrap things up, guys, but there's one award tonight that is really special, and I have the privilege of helping to induct Matt Warner. But if you'll look on the back of your programs tonight, Matt, would you stand up for just a minute? I want them to know who we're talking about. And Matt, introduce your parents to us, would you?
My mom, Jenna, and my dad, Rod.
Would you folks stand up for a minute?
This is my good friend Dan, who came down with
All the way from San Francisco Bay Area. It's great to have you guys. I first met Matt through a teacher that I had hired to replace myself at a small Christian high school in Northern California. I was moving into administration from coaching, and came down a few years later to Biola to coach the women's program and join missionary athletes. And during that time, this coach that I'd hired said, "Yes, you got to meet this young guy. You need to take him on tour to Japan." And so I said, "Okay, sure. I trust you." And so we took him on tour. I was so impressed as I watched him on tour. I came home and said, "Matt, we need this guy at Biola." And I'll never forget, he came down, I think he tried out, and Matt goes, "I don't know. I trust you, kids, but he looks okay." And I'll never forget, I was going, "Come on, man, prove yourself. My name is on the line here." But last year, Matt approached me and said something to me. He says, "Giz," he said, "you know what? I'm beginning to realize something. There's two things in life that I'm beginning to understand I need to do. Number one," he says, "I love two things. I love to tell people about Jesus, and I love the game of soccer." And I'm so excited to tell you, because Matt's got a future where he desires to serve the Lord through the game, and we're excited about that. This summer in Japan, I don't know if you saw it in the video, but after every game, you'd see Matt over there talking to the Japanese kids, say, "Kids, come here. He says, you got to help me with this guy." Of course, I speak Japanese growing up over there, and he'd be witnessing. He'd have the 4 spiritual laws out, and he'd need my help to talk to this Japanese kid. There was an incredible boldness and an incredible urgency that God had begun to lay in Matt's heart. And boy, that did me good. But tonight, I want to share another thought with you. Matt came and struggled that first year, and he's a man of character. And through that struggle, I was starting to go, boy, did I make a wise choice in recommending Biola to Matt? And I want two of his teammates to come up here and share a little bit about what happened as a result of that perseverance. Mike Morgan and Brad Davies, would you guys come up here and share a little bit about your friend Matt?
Matt came as a freshman, and I remember the day he came and tried out, and we were kind of excited because he had a lot of energy, he was very enthusiastic, but he just wasn't that good. And it was true, we were just like, yeah, he's going to help, but he's not the guy we need. And it turns out he's exactly the guy that we needed. And Matt has I haven't seen anyone that's come through his work and wanted to improve as much as Matt has. And in the spring, he's always out working, and I'd call him up in the summer, he's like, oh yeah, he's running forever, and he just loves soccer, and until recently, he just loves God. And I got to spend the summer in Israel with Matt, and every day, he'd be like, man, I hope he's doing more stuff that Jesus does. You know, because we're up in the Galilee, and I want to learn about Jesus, and Matt loves the person of Christ. It was very evident, and as he plays, in the program, I said, you know, he is Christ on the field. He's been encouraging, and he never quits. And when I think of how Christ would play when he's on the field, I think of Matt Warner. And it definitely is one of my greatest pleasures to be here at Biola and to play with Matt and call me teammates. And so, thanks, man.
Well, in thinking about what I should say about Matt, Bible definitely comes to mind. He does portray Christ in the field, and there's some verses that pretty much sum up that. This reflects the story of Matt's soccer career. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what the day may bring forth. That's Proverbs 27:1. And today, Matt was in the doctor's office with this bursa, and it's like the big bursa, I guess. And he keeps on popping that big bursa, so he keeps on going to the doctor. But he doesn't boast about tomorrow because he doesn't even know what's going to come. But says, and the reason why I'm up here is because of Proverbs 27:2. It says, let another praise you and not your own mouth, someone else and not your own lips. And Matt doesn't praise himself. He doesn't talk about how great he is, but as a testimony from both of us, Matt is a great player, and so we want to boast about him. This is what Matt had to overcome in soccer that I was talking about, Proverbs 27:5. Better is open rebuke than hidden love. Coach can attest to that. Matt has told me about that, and it was pretty brutal, especially as you've heard. But wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. So Coach is definitely a friend of Matt, and a desire from Matt. This is all from Proverbs. I just went heyday on Proverbs, but 27:7 says he was full. Lowe's honey, so hates honey, but to the hungry, even what is bitter tastes sweet, and Matt is definitely hungry. He's hungry to go after anybody, and when he's like away from the game, it's like bitter, but he's like, oh, I want that back, you know. And he was talking to me the other night, he's like, Mike, when I come back, you know, I'm going hard, and I'm